before I get started and go into the video, here's my disclaimer. Don't miss the principles that I'm attempting to get across because you are stuck on the verbatim reading of the text. All right, so there's sometimes that certain things are mentioned as dust. There's times when certain things are mentioned as ground. There's certain times where certain things are mentioned as dirt. There's a few references of soil in the text. Don't miss the principle that I want to get across here by having a verbatim religious reading of the text. All right. Shalom, shalom. I am Moray Amir, writer of Torah Culture Assembly, and today I'm going to share with you the differences between soil and dirt. So this is pretty much going to be like an expose on practical application with spiritual implications. And although I'm new to the agricultural landscape, I'm with farmers all the time. My elder is a master farmer, and so he's been able to teach me on some things, and I have my brothers who are also farmers, and I've been able to pick their brains about certain things. And once they give me a little bit of something, I'm always able to go research it and go find out more so that I can do what I'm doing here on my land as well. But so the differences between soil and dirt, a lot of people don't know that there are differences, but yet there are. One of the things about soil is that soil has the capacity to give life. So you see this vegetation around me right now. That's because of what's in the soil. On all soil is not created equal, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. But it's because in this soil here, you have microorganisms, you have worms, insects, you have organic matter that has broken down and is feeding the soil. You have a lot of different things that is feeding and fueling this soil so that when you put a seed into the ground, you have an expectation that something will come up out of that. And that's because of what's actually in it. It has the nutrients. It has the calcium, potassium, the zinc. It has all these nutrients that is conducive to creating this environment for your seed, whatever seed you may be sowing, to flourish. Keep that in mind. So that's one thing about soil. The thing about dirt is a little different though. Dirt is dead. A lot of times dirt is separated. It's separated from the source, which is the soil. It's very fine. As this soil here, I can grab it and there's clumps. It's moist. It's not the same with dirt. It's dead. It does not have the capacity to give life. Things will either not grow at all or will struggle to grow in dirt. So if you ever swept off a porch or something like that, or swept into a pile and you see that pile that you have there, that you can pretty much consider that dirt. And so if you plant a seed in that pile of dirt, it's not going to grow because it's lacking the nutrients. It's lacking the things inside of it that will make it able to bear good fruit. Keep that in mind. So when you look at these differences, it's a really, it seems subtle when you're just looking at it on the surface, but there's a complete contrast between the two. Soil gives life. Dirt is void of life. Those things are not in there. Those you don't find the organic matter, the nutrients that you need in dirt. So what does that mean? What's the correlation in all of this? You treat soil differently than you would dirt because you know that the two are not equal. You know that they are not the same. So if you put something into the soil, then you have an expectation that this thing is going to bear fruit. You have an expectation that something is going to sprout. You're going to be able to see something being produced from what you are investing in that soil. All right. But dirt is good for nothing. Dirt is just here and comes and goes with the wind. Like that's really the epitome of dirt, right? You get a strong gust of wind and if you got some dirt sitting around, that dirt is just going to blow. But you get a strong gust of wind over here and it's not going to do anything to this soil. Dirt is unstable. All right? Dirt is unproductive. These are the things that comes to mind when I think about dirt versus soil. So what's the meaning of all of this? Some people are dirt, some people are soil. And at one point in time, they all were connected to the same source. Dirt, soil, it was all connected at one point in time, but over generations and generations, you end up with family trees. You end up with family trees, and these family trees come up in different environments, right? In different atmospheres, and they end up having different experiences. So the dirt ends up separating itself from the source, from the soil, and you end up with people who do not have the capacity to bear good fruit. So you end up with people who don't mind doing dirt because they are dirt. So this is the position that we're in now, when we have to sit back and identify what it is that we are investing in, what it is that we're trying to plant seeds in. You have to get to a point to where you understand that everyone is not going to receive the information you're trying to provide them. Some people just are hard-headed. They have to learn on their own. They don't have the capacity to produce the fruit that you expect when you plant seeds in them. They are dirt. And that doesn't mean you treat them as in American culture, we say they treat someone like dirt. We don't want to treat them like dirt, but they are what they are. And when you look into it a little deeper, then you understand that dirt, no matter how much you plant, you're not going to reap from dirt. You're not going to be able to get fruit from dirt. Dirt does not have the capacity. You ever tried to water dirt? That water pretty much rolls off the top surface of it. It can barely even accept the life-giving water. Keep that in mind. It can barely accept the life-giving water when you try to water dirt. I.e. soil it just absorbs that water with no problem. So dirt is almost waterproof. The water can't penetrate the dirt. So we spend so much time trying to talk to our friends and our loved ones and trying to beat them upside the head with things that they're just not ready to accept. And it's not until you can change the complete composition or makeup of the dirt, and only then, that's mixing it with soil, mixing it with compost. You have to add something externally into it and mix it together so that it becomes one with something else versus what it was before, that it is able to receive the nutrients, it's able to get a seed and bear good fruit. So you have to keep these things in mind. Everyone is not equal. All things are not equal. All soil is not equal. So right here, we're in an area of my land which I call Mars. I call it Mars because the pictures that we see of what's supposed to be Mars is red. So I've named this the same thing. It's barren, it's red. There we have it. It is Mars on my backyard. But anywho, the reason why I wanted to show you all this is as I wanted to really make the principle of what I was saying clear. So when we was in the other side of my lawn, my yard, you would see how the soil was. It was thick. It had vegetation all around. But you look around here, this is almost like a desert. You see a few blades of grass here and there, but nothing that's going to be sustained. You get a random bush. It's not till you get to the edges of this to where you begin to see a lot of trees and stuff like that. But this stuff has erosion. It has rocks. It's a very grainy, almost sand. It's very, very fine. So I wanted to show you this in contrast of when you're dealing with soil and when you're dealing with dirt, so you can have a visual as I go on to make the point of this whole video. But this is what we have here, and when you look at some of these blades of grass, it does remind me of Israel. It's something that's resilient. It was growing in places where you would expect for it not to even exist, for it to not to be able to grow. So it does remind me of Israel, but unlike Israel, I know that this is going to die out very soon. I know that once the sun gets a little hotter, this stuff is going to die. There's no moisture over here. There's no microorganisms. There's nothing in here. It's void of nutrients. If I haven't already said that already, it's void of everything that it needs. And so keep this in mind as we continue with the story or the point I'm trying to get across about soil and dirt. All right. Let's go. You have to keep in mind that soil, just like the body, has a pH. All right. So there are certain things that thrive in a lower pH. So certain fruits, certain vegetables, especially something like blueberries, right? They thrive in a lower pH soil. And vice versa, there are some things that's just not going to grow in a low pH. And it needs something that's much, much higher for it to thrive in. So dealing with people is the same way. You have to know what kind of person, i.e., soil, you're dealing with, so that you can plant things that's necessary, that soil, that particular soil needs for it to grow. You could be trying to plant one thing, but that soil, although it is soil and it's not dirt, but if you don't understand the differences between the the differences between the soils, then you could be planting in something that has a different pH that's, once again, not conducive and won't bear the fruit, even though it's good. So you can't use cookie cutter methods when you're dealing with people, because these people need different things, because different people have different experiences and different people have different value systems. So you have to keep these things in mind when you're trying to bear fruit. If you're going to plant something, if you're going to plant seeds, if you're going to sow, there should always be an expectation that you are going to reap something at the end. You're going to get a harvest. And it all depends on what you sow. So if you sit back and you sow seeds of discord, doubt, unbelief, stuff like that, fear, you will have a harvest. You will have a harvest. And these things are sort of like weeds, right? So think about weeds, or better yet, they're like an invasive plant. So what an invasive plant does is that if an invasive plant is planted on your land, and you don't have to plant it, wind can blow the seed over there, a bird can drop seeds. You don't have to be the one to plant it. However, but if it's an invasive seed, no matter how that seed is sown, what it does is that it has the capacity, it has the ability to begin to take root, suck up the nutrients, and it grows at such a rate, and it has this thing about it to where it will overtake and consume a land. This is what invasive plants do. And if you understand doubt, or if you've ever dealt with doubt or unbelief, then you understand that that is an invasive thought which has the ability to consume you. So let me read to you this example of an invasive plant. 1 second. All right, so the name of this plant is the kudzu. So 1 million acres of kudzu. Oops, I lost my spot. So this plant is called the kudzu. 1 million acres of kudzu were planted in the 1930s and 40s by the Soil Conservation Service to reduce soil erosion on defrosted lands. It was not until the 1950s that it was recognized as an invasive. Once established, the kudzu grows at a rate of up to 1 foot a day and 60 feet annually. This vigorous vine takes over areas in the southeast by smothering plants and kills trees by adding immense weight or toppling them. So that's why I say, if you've struggled with doubt or unbelief, then you absolutely know that those things are invasive thoughts. They will overtake people. They will consume people. So be careful what you are saying. Be careful what you're sowing into people. All right, but and the inverse of that is, if you take the time and you plant seeds of trust, love, compassion, peace, unity, selflessness, if you take the time and you planting these things, then of course, these things are also going to give you a harvest as well. And then you sow again, and these things are going to produce after its kind, So these are the type of things that we should be sowing But we have to stop investing in people, investing time trying to plant where we will not be able to yield an increase. Identify, what are you dealing with? Soil or dirt? Identify it, and then if you realize that you're dealing with dirt, then you need to move on to some more productive land. So you go to this area, and then you begin to speak to them the things that they need to hear. You begin to speak to them hope. You begin to speak to them faith. These things that they need to hear to be able to accomplish something in this life, to actually get from the depths of despair where they maybe once were, to be revitalized. But this is only going to happen if you're dealing with soul. Because no matter how much wisdom you try to impart in dirt, no matter how much you try to teach dirt, the whole thing about dirt is it can't accept it. The environments that the dirt was created in, that it was structured in, was something that took away the nutrients, that took away the spirit of that dirt. And now it's just like the Walking Dead. It's alive, but it's not living. So at the end of the day, let me read this scripture real quick before I close this out. Keep this in mind. This is going to be Luke chapter 8, verses 5 through 8. So a sower went out to sow his seed. And as he sowed, some fell along the path and was trampled underfoot, and the birds of the air devoured it. And some fell on rock, and as it grew up, it withered away because it had no moisture. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up with it and choked it. And some fell into good soil and grew and yielded 100-fold. As he said these things, he called out, "He who has ears to hear, let them hear." Think about these things. Consider these things as you try to communicate with people before you get into situations where you're trying to invest something in someone, hoping that they will change or hoping that they will see things the way that you see it. You have to analyze them, and you have to have you have to be sober about it. Is this dirt that I'm dealing with, or is this soil? And even with you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to ask yourself, which one of these things are you? All right, so I was getting ready to go into the house, but then I came across this as I was walking on my driveway. And this is exactly what I was talking about. This right here is what we would call dirt. There's small rocks in here. It looks just like sand to a degree, you know. You blow it, it goes with the wind. It blows to and fro, right? Just like some people we know. It is your responsibility to be able to identify the difference between the dirt and the soil, so that you don't spend time trying to plant in this, thinking that you're being useful. You're just wasting your time. I'm Red Mirror Writer. Until next time, peace and shalom.